All right, join me right now is Brave CF Flyweight contender Jose Shorty Torres. Jose, it's good to get you back on. What's going on?
It's a pleasure to be back on, and I'm actually in the Kingdom of Bahrain. So our time difference really isn't as horrible as what it usually is. So I just want to say kudos to you because I've been trying to schedule interviews, and the time difference is crazy. And for you being what you said 7 hours ahead of me,
Yeah, yeah.
man, good job because I know you interview not just myself, but other people in the States and just parts of the world, and it's a hectic thing.
All right, let's talk about Bahrain. You know what I mean? You're out there. How long you been out there?
So I've been out here for about a week now. My fight ended up being pushed a little earlier than expected, and my coach is Dean Thomas is coaching two fighters. One we have David Evans fighting March 26th for Titan, and then we have Jillian Robertson fighting March 27th for the UFC. So I wasn't gonna have a coach. So that was my little dilemma, but because of travel restrictions, not because of Brave or other promotions in general, it's just overall the world and travel restrictions. They go, hey man, you can fight March 25th. The only problem is we're not going to have another event until after Ramadan, which is another 2 months in, the end of May. And then that country, which I'm not sure what country it was, or at least I can't say, they they might not allow Americans. And right now, Americans are like the dilemma to the world. So
Wow.
there's travel restrictions. So, like, for example, I was supposed to fight in December and possibly January in Russia. And Russia's like, everyone can come except for Americans because you guys have the highest COVID rate. So there's a travel ban against Americans pretty much primarily majority of the world. And Bahrain is one of the places nice enough to let us in. So it was like fight now or possibly fight in the summer. And man, I need to make a living too. And plus, I want to advance in this flyweight tournament. And just in general, I don't advance in my career unless I fight, win or lose. So I gotta have time to play. And this is my time to shine.
Definitely, man. I didn't know about all the travel restriction on Americans because I thought if you're anybody, if you go to another country, you just do the quarantine and then get tested and then you're good to go.
I wish, but honestly, we can't go to Europe. We can't go to Russia. We can't go to certain places in Asia. There's certain regions of the world that just doesn't care. But like New Zealand, I think what's his name? Dan Hooker just got back from after his fight, and his fight was almost like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So the quarantine in New Zealand is ridiculous. But again, it's safety first, and I completely understand. But it sucks when you're trying to make a living and your living involves you traveling internationally.
So what's the setup like in Bahrain? I could only imagine that it is top notch.
It's awesome. The only problem is I learned that they're actually suffering a little more from COVID. I guess there was a massive COVID outbreak early, either last month or sometime at the beginning of the year. So the restrictions are a lot more strict than when I first came here in October. October they're like, hey, we're kind of shut down, but we're letting the Brave event happen. Everything will be fine. But now, there's discrepancies on now you need to have a schedule to go into the workout room. We can only have so many people in the workout room, no one in the sauna. So it is getting a little complicated here at the hotel, but it's a beautiful 4 or 5 star hotel. Like Brave is taking care of us, man. The hard part is again, us fighters, we just didn't know that Brave and just Bahrain in general was going to be so strict with certain things. But again, it is safety first, so we have to abide by all the rules that the government's putting here. It makes it a little more complicated when it comes to getting ready for a fight, but the job's going to get done either way.
Yeah, Brave. I've been noticing that they've been making some big moves, signing some big names, and kind of pushing the other divisions forward. They had the flyweight division kind of set up with the tournament and everything, but now they're starting to stack up the lightweight and the welterweight divisions, and man, it's promising.
Well, the two things that Brave is doing really, really well is highlighting a super lightweight division, which is 165. I have no clue what that is in kg, which is a great thing because you have a lot. For example, the Premier League is the UFC. The UFC automatically you have Dustin Poirier, Nate Diaz, all these guys saying, "Hey, let's do 165." It makes sense. All these weight classes go up by 10, and now we're going up by 15, and eventually 20. It's like it does just might as well make it almost like boxing. But now instead of every 4 or 5 pounds or 8 pounds, we have it 10 pounds. You just kind of go consecutively with that. So they have the super welterweight division, which is awesome. And then the flyweight tournament is a great thing because one, you see the resurgence in the UFC with the flyweights. But then one fight that I'm actually more excited about than my fight is you have Ali Bagotinov versus Dustin Ortiz. Dustin Ortiz, when he was released, was number 3 in the UFC and in the world. And he lost to Joseph Benavidez by unanimous decision. I believe he lost like 2-1. And then, which Benavidez at the time, I think like 2 fights after that, won for a title. And then Ali fought against DJ. So he was a title contender before he was released, and now he's on a massive win streak. So you have two of the best flyweights in the world fighting a different promotion all across, overseas in Bahrain. And it's, those are the guys that I might fight next, knock on wood that I win my next fight.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Brave has some of the best flyweights in the world. You know what I mean? It's competitive to all the other promotions, and this tournament shows you that. Let's get into your first fight with Sean back in September. Brave CF 42. Just give me your overall thoughts on that and the draw.
Man, there were a bunch of things coinciding for both of us. Him and I, and as much as I want to be like, oh, I had this, he was honestly facing the same things. I had my father's passing, and I backed out of a couple fights just because of my mental stability at the time and just trying to grieve and stuff, which I knew nothing about. Again, my dad was a gang member, a gang leader, all that stuff. So it was always, tough love and just get the job done. So for me, I didn't know how to cry. I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know how to take care of myself mentally. And it was about a year and a half until I finally got into another fight for Sean Santella, which pretty much was the same thing. His mother was suffering from cancer. I believe his mother's pet was also suffering from cancer, which is ridiculous. And he was just, the take care, the caretaker for his family. So him and I both immediately, we've trained together before, so we vented and stuff like that. Like, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. And I know both of us had, in a sense, anxiety and kind of like mental restrictions once we got inside the cage. But for me, I didn't have a coach. I had my nutritionist on the side, which I love nutrition, but, he's not a coach. And he had his teammate, which is a high-level black belt, which is definitely better than my coach at the time. But I didn't really have anybody. So when we got inside the cage and we fought, I always start slow, and he took advantage of my pressure, which is a very smart game plan. And he wasn't able to take me down because of my wrestling, but he would just pull guard. I mean, you got to think about it. For a man to pull guard the entire fight shows how confident he is with his jiu-jitsu. And 24 of his, professional wins primarily have been through submission. Like, he is super, super slick. And while being on top, I'm like, man, I always feel in danger. Like, I feel you trapping an arm. I feel you doing this. And I let myself get a little overconfident of like, oh, cool, I'm defending it. And then I get stuck in these crazy submission positions where you're not locking me in, but I can't get out. But overall, it's a dominant position. The ref can't stand us up. There's no reason for you to move if I can't get out. And you're now winning the round. And that happened for 2 straight rounds. And the third one, I'm like, damn, I'm losing. I have to knock him out. Luckily, I was able to solidify a very dominant round and get a 10-8 round. So I ended up getting the majority draw. But there wasn't any type of, contract clause saying, hey, if it goes to a draw because it is a tournament, kind of like the Ultimate Fighter, you go to an extra round, or let's make it a 5-round fight. Surprisingly, they did the same exact thing and made it a 3-round fight. So, I mean, again, knock on wood, hopefully there isn't another draw. I think the rarity of that is almost impossible, but, he's a very, very tough opponent. But for him moving into this next fight, he is older. He's definitely out of his prime, but he's a very dangerous guy, very slick. And I know he's still working on his craft that has got him this far in his career. I just don't see him changing up the game plan too much. I'm hoping that I actually follow a game plan for once, swallow my pride, and take it nice, slow, methodically, and figure out what I want to do right from the start.
Were you able to release some emotions after the fight? Because you didn't fight for a long time. You had a lot of things going on in your life. Did you go out there and just be able to scream and, vent, I guess, on your own?
Oh, man. It's crazy. So when my father passed away, I wanted to do what, Khabib did in his fight. I wanted to just say, screw it, let me continue training, given he had a longer run before he was able to finally fight. I believe he had at least 6 months to kind of cope and grieve and handle things. For me, I had 3 weeks. And I went in there thinking, I have the mental stability like Michael Jordan, Khabib, Brett Favre, all these guys that had, tragedies like that happen. And my plan was to fight, and immediately after a fight, win, lose, whatever the case may be, just break down on my knees and just, start bawling, because that's what I was holding in. But then fight week came and everything was, the camp wasn't great because I was mentally just unstable, kind of hurting myself. And again, just not knowing how to take care of myself. I ended up hindering a lot of my performances and even the weight cut. And then out of nowhere, fight week happened, and all these fighters are like, my condolences, my condolences, my condolences, which is amazing. But dude, I want to focus on my fight, like, please. And I ended up breaking down before the fight, and I had to call it off. I'm like, I can't do it. So then the year and a half finally happened, and I was able to fight Sean. I can tell you when that fight finished, that last bell went away, it was like all the stress, all the anxiety that I've been carrying since my father's passing just it disappeared. And I'm like, oh, now? Like, this couldn't happen at least 2 rounds before. Like, go ahead, take the first round. Couldn't happen in the second round where, like, now I'm free. Now I'm, like, true to myself. So it took a lot of me time. And I can tell you right after the fight, I'm like, man, I have a lot of positive people around me. I have a good, generous team with the firm, Jillian, David Evans, Dean Thomas, my family back at home. Like, I have so many things to look forward to because when you have somebody pass away, I don't know, your experiences, but like for me, man, when my father passed away, it's like you want to end yourself. You want to stop training. You want to stop doing so many things. You want to stop living. You just so for me, once that stress was lifted up, I was like, I'm finally happy again, and that's something I haven't been able to say for a very, very long time, and that's why I'm so excited for this fight because it's gonna be the true me.
All right. Now, in this camp, or actually before we talk about the camp, I wanted to get your thoughts
Yeah.
on how you and Dean, you guys look at the tape of the last fight and you guys dissect it. What did you guys feel like you did really well in?
The good thing, obviously, we had the good submission defense because he was always trying to attack, trying to attack, trying to attack. He used my pressure against me. It's something I do very, very well. But for him, he's like, I don't care if I can take you down. I'll just pull guard. And then from there, try to advance position. But I was able to hold and solidify a lot of positions and even fight out of a lot of submissions. But I didn't really do much in that fight besides push the pace. So yes, I had the pressure, I had the attacks, but my attacks were more they weren't strategic. They were just kind of like, oh, you're in front of me. Let's just kind of throw and bang and see where it goes. The only problem is I have a jiu-jitsu opponent who's not willing to stand and bang, who's ducking his head, now who's elusive, and I can't see where I want to hit. I wasn't being strategic, and that was the problem. So it's creating that game plan and knowing what I need to do this next fight. And I did know what I needed to do the first fight. I just wasn't there. It was one of those things where it's like, you have the game plan and your pride kicks and you're like, I don't care, I want to do this. It's like Max Holloway after Ricardo Lamas, those last 10 seconds, like, oh, you want to go? Then let's go. But I decided to do that right when I walked out.
Yeah.
So for me, it's swallowing that pride and just doing what Dean has been telling me to do. And we watched the film multiple times. I'm still watching the film now just in case as those reminders every single day, even though, again, Dean's not here. I'm pretty much in Bahrain by myself. Like, no one is here with me. It's been 7 days. It's going to be 20 more days, pretty much give or take until the fight. So, it's one of those things that I have to keep on reminding myself why I'm here, what are my goals, what's my strategy, and making sure the entire time I follow my game plan.
Before you flew over to Bahrain, what was the camp looking like? Did you? I think I saw that you spent some time in Vegas before you left. What was the situation for you?
So, man, I practically now live in Florida with Dean Thomas. I stay in his house. We train in the garage, and again, it's just David Evans, Jillian, and I, and we're just training pretty much twice a day, every single day, sometimes even on Sunday, and we're just pushing the pace. So I was supposed to fight in December. I was supposed to fight in January, and we just stayed in camp the entire time. So after October, or after the September fight, I maybe took 2 weeks off, and then I was back in camp because Jillian had fights. David was probably getting ready for a competition soon, and I was just helping other fighters in Florida. So I'm like, all right, let me stay training, let me stay active. So we just continued working, especially after my last contest. I wasn't hurt anyway. I had maybe like a little shiner atop my eyes. So I'm like, I keep on going. Let me try my best to stay in shape because I get really, really round and I look like Calvin Gastelum. So, I want to, no offense to him because I love the guy to death, but it's one of those things that I stayed in shape. So in February, they're like, you might fight in February, and then no event ended up happening. And then they were saying maybe March, but you'll more than likely fight April 1st. And there was a small confusion. I got pushed early to March 25th. I've been in shape this entire time. I've been training this entire time. So getting ready for this fight, nothing's really changed. Yeah, my fight got moved up a little earlier, but the training's been done. Now all I have to focus on is my weight, my mindset, and making sure that I stay focused until that time comes.
Do you feel like it's a massive advantage for you that you didn't show Sean your true self in the first fight? And when because maybe he thought like, okay, I won that fight. You know what I mean? It's clear for him in his eyes, and he goes in there with that confidence. But then you get in there and it's a different Shorty Torres, right?
Yeah, the crazy thing is he's been going through a lot himself. Like, we both follow each other on social media. We are friends. Like, there's no problems with anything. Again, this is just business. Also, my training camp, the reason I was in Vegas because I was helping Jillian Robertson get ready for her fight, and then so happened one of the fights ended up being she lost her fight, and then ended up having to back out of the last one because of food poisoning. It sadly is what it is, part of the sport. And now she's fighting, which I can't help her in this one, which sucks, but. It's part of it, and then she'll have a coach on her side, which is amazing. I wish I had my coach here. But man, fighting Sean Santella, the good thing about the mindset I'm having right now is I drawed with him. I wouldn't say at my worst because I definitely obviously tried and I did well, but I wasn't 100%. So and we see fighters in there. I mean, you look at Conor McGregor, his last fight, you can tell he just wasn't mentally in there. If he was mentally in there, could the same thing have happened? Possibly, but I feel he would have done so much more because he would have created a little bit more of a plan, would have done certain things a little differently. There are fighters that, you start to realize, especially when you're in the sport, if you're not mentally there, man, I mean, you look at Tyron Woodley. I feel like his last 3 fights, yes, he's lost to literally the number one guy every single time, Usman, Burns, Kobe, but I feel that he could have beaten all of them. And mentally, I just feel he was too distracted. I know with the Kamaru Usman fight, he was a little more distracted with his music and things going behind the scenes of his life. And then slowly they started to dwindle down. He did get better with the other 2 fights. Those guys are just better that day. But I believe mentally there is an aspect to where if you're 100% there, man, you look at Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar, like he was just in the zone. But if he wasn't in the zone, maybe something different would have happened. So for me, I wasn't in the zone for the Sean Santella fight, but this one I'm mentally stable, especially being by myself. It's one of those things that I have to constantly remind myself why I'm here. I'm an extreme extrovert, so being by myself, I'm like, oh God, this sucks. I'm like shaking my legs. So I'm entertaining myself. I have a coloring book here. I got the Nintendo Switch. I'm watching movies. I'm trying my best to train myself to the point of this is what I need to do every single time I step inside the cage when I'm training here, and making sure mentally I am 100% there. Even Dean right now is sending me audio messages of like just kind of what Cus D'Amato used to do with Mike Tyson, kind of hypnotize him. It's like, dude, you are a champion. You know why you're here. You know you can beat this guy, and we are trying to stay 100% so this can happen, and I fight hopefully Ali or Dustin Ortiz next.
For sure. Now, 100% mindset is on point. What do you see? How do you see yourself performing in this fight?
Man, I don't want to give my game plan out completely, but for me, one of the things that I don't mind, one of the things that I really idolized in his last performance was Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. Kamaru Usman, he was getting beat up, but he honestly followed Trevor Whitman's plan. And Trevor, I've trained with him personally. That guy's a mastermind. Like, that guy can make you think you could fly. That's how motivating he is. If you get to the top of the house, it's like, just do it, jump. Like, you'll fly, and you'll 100% believe him because that's how great of a person he is. So for me, is following Dean's game plan. If it has to be slow and methodical, it's slow and methodical. If it has to start immediately in the first round, like I finished the fight in the 3rd round, let's do that. The plus side is he knows a few things. One, I'm going to push the pace. I'm not going to get tired in a 3-round fight because I'm used to 5-round fights because of Titan FC. I dominated that 3rd round, and so I won the last round. So mentally, it's like you automatically know the farther this fight goes from personal experience, the worse it's going to get. So if you can't finish me in the 1st round, it's just going to be a very long 10 more minutes for you. So for me, having a different game plan and now training with a bunch of the guys here at KHK with the Dagestani Eagles, man, we had sparring yesterday, and these guys just do not stop going for takedowns. I know why. And again, I've sparred with Islam Makhachev before and Khabib. I know why these guys are so good because that's all they practice. Their takedowns are ridiculous, and their chain wrestling is phenomenal. So anytime I finally get to throw a Dagestani guy, I was like, did we record that? Please tell me we recorded that. Like, somebody take a picture, something, So it's a nice time kind of changing my training up here with KHK MMA and all the Dagestani guys, and Sheikh Khaled helped me out on all that stuff. But it's a fun adventure. So with facing Sean Santella, being 100% mentally there, and given, we'll see how the weight cut goes, because usually the weight cut kind of messes you up mentally and all that stuff. You're like, I just want to go home. I just want cake and this and that, which I already want right now. I'm already looking up like food porn on Instagram and just scrolling through, teasing myself. It's an adventure. But if you're not mentally there, it's you're gonna make things so much harder, and you start to realize how much motivation can make you do some crazy, crazy things. And I'm really motivated right now, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, very exciting matchup. I wanted to go back to the food porn. After you weigh
Yeah,
in,
me
right?
too.
After you weigh in, do you eat what you want immediately after? Or I know you have to eat something to kind of replenish yourself, but then after that, do you eat whatever you want, or you do wait until after the fight?
Sadly, you have to wait until after the fight because,
Okay.
man, if I were to eat whatever I wanted, right when I weighed in, I wouldn't be able to fight. Like, it would completely ruin everything. Um, One of the things that I like to do is either coconut water or pineapple juice mixed in a shaker cup. So usually, like, let's say pineapple juice in a shaker cup with protein powder and with a carb mixer as well, and just mix it up and immediately drink that. Then hopefully an hour after, now we get some heavy food in when it comes to like red meat, some sweet potatoes, some broccoli. Very, very basic stuff, but very delicious because I can't have red meat right now. And then once the fight is over, that's when the ice cream, that's when the cake, that's when the donuts come in. And it's funny because I end up acquiring more food sponsors when I'm in fight week than I do in general when I'm looking for sponsors, because all I'm doing is literally going through Instagram, and because it knows that I'm from Chicago, it shows me food places in Chicago, and it's like, oh, this looks great. Hey, can I come on over for a free meal for free publicity and promotion? I'll promote you guys on my Instagram. They're like, yeah, come on in. So by the time I go home, I have like 10 businesses ready to feed me. And I'm telling you, I gained so much weight so fast. Like so naturally, I weigh about, if people want to regulate this into pounds and kilograms, I weigh about 72 kg, if not like 160 pounds naturally, because, and this is even still me working out. Like, I'm still in shape. I'm just A shape, and that's round because I'm devouring so much food. But that's just my lifestyle. So I'm excited, but also not excited to retire because I'm gonna look like Matt Serra 2.0, but it's not an upgrade. It's just getting fatter. That's really what it is.
Have you seen the Prince, the boxer, the Prince? Have you seen him
Yeah, yeah.
nowadays? He
Prince
looks
Nassim. Oh,
yeah, he
dude, he's
looks
huge.
completely different, man. I didn't even recognize him.
Dude, Marcos Maidana is the same
Yeah.
exact thing.
Yeah.
I'm like that to me. I am self-conscious of my body, so one of those things, I'm like, oh no, I'll run, I'll do this. There's so many people, my management team, my coaches, my friends are like, dude, you're going to be so fat after your fighting career is over. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to accept it. I don't care. Like, I'm going to look like Ricky Hatton.
Mhm.
I'm going to look like Prince Nassim, Marcos Maidana, like all these professional people who just right after their career, they're like, I'm done. And so is my weight. So, I always say if I'm going to go, I'd rather go out the way I want. And that's a diabetic coma. So that's me.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel those guys when they gain the weight, man, they deserve it, man. They've been at the highest level, cutting weight, fighting depleted. You gotta let them go, man. You gotta let them
Well,
go and
dude,
eat what you want.
a lot of people, because again, they don't experience the weight cut, they don't know how hard this is. Even my manager, Lex McMahon, had a fight for Titan FC, his only professional, his only fight in general, and he's always making fun of me. He's like, Shorty, you're fat, you're this, like, why do you gain so much weight? And he's a heavyweight, so he technically did not have to cut weight. And after the fight, he goes, dude, I'm craving sugar. What are those donuts you were talking about the other day? And I don't know, I bring him donuts, and then he gained like 20 pounds after his fight. And again, he's a heavyweight. He doesn't have to cut weight. And he was still training, but he just demolished all this food. And he goes, all right, Shorty, I understand. I'm sorry. You're still fat, but I understand. And it's like, yeah, we deplete ourselves from salt, from sugar, a diet. Most people after a diet, let's say they do this 30-day cleanse, they gain all their weight back because the diet's over. They get to enjoy themselves because they depleted themselves from what they really wanted, and that was donuts, tacos, all this crazy stuff. And that's something I'm trying to look forward to is invest in like a taco shop. The only problem is it's kind of like drugs. You don't get high on your own supply. And dude, I'm gonna devour everything and run myself out of business.
You're gonna make Scarface angry, man, if you do that.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be so bad. But instead of like a mountain of Coke, it's just like a mountain of taco meat and like tacos.
I'm down for that, man. I love tacos. But anyways, man, March 25th, main event, Brave CF 49. Thank you, Jose, for the time, man. Appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your camp, and good luck to you, man.
I appreciate it, man. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon.